Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to this game's tutorial. So today, we implement the ability container and we do the whole thing. I'm not actually splitting this in like 12 episodes. This is over now. So, as you can tell, we have this nice boost morale thing down here. Increase your tower damage for 30 seconds. I click on this, lose 50 gold. It is active for 3 seconds. Then it enters the cooldown phase and then it's back up. I can reuse it again. Now, the values are wrong, they're here for testing purpose. If I put them on something that has more sense, we said it is a cooldown of 5 minutes, so that would be 300 seconds, and the duration is 30 seconds. Modify that right here, right on my tower script. Let's go back in the game and test this out once more. 5-minute cooldown, click here. It is active for 30 seconds, and as soon as this finishes, we are going to start at 4 minutes 30 seconds and it's just going to go down like that. So guys, that is pretty much what we're doing today, and yeah, let's get started. Alright, so last episode guys, we've did some work on the abilities now, but they still look like that. We haven't really done any visuals. Today, we are going to take the base we've made last episode and actually put it in there so we can actually have a look at something and also have a feedback. So we're going to be creating the whole ability container. And yeah, let's go ahead and start by opening up our game scene, and we're going to be modifying our bottom UI a little bit. So I'm going to go under bottom UI, ability panel, open up the ability list. I'm going to clear everything but one. And this is going to be the ability container for my first skill. My first skill being, what do we say? We call this boost morale. So let's go ahead and just change the name of that really quick. So that's the icon. That's the title, I guess. That would be the stat title. And we're going to be changing this a little bit because I want the stat title to also have a description just be needed. So let's put that on, say, boost morale. But I'm going to make the height 30 and also make sure it's on best fit so we can actually see it. And as for the width, I'll just stick it close to the button, and we're probably going to overlap with this other thing, with the other UI piece here, but we're going to be moving that as well. So here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take this and put the anchor, say, on the right, I don't know, and expand the width so I can actually go right next to the button. So that would be like 250. Okay, it's really hard to see because it's pretty much gray on gray. But if you take this line over here, I'm just going to put it really close to the button. And that is my title. Now I'll duplicate it, just put it below this, call this description. Of course your UI doesn't have to look like mine, it's just how I want it to be right now, and I'm probably going to modify it in the end when we actually do the art and put like real images in there. Right, so the description of this one is increase your tower damage and attack speed for, say, 30 seconds. Something like that. I'll put it here, and yeah. That's it. So I'm pretty much satisfied with that. I'll also increase the height a little bit so we take more space, we can actually read. And everything looks fine except that button over here. So let's go ahead and do what we have to do over here. So that's our level up button. We are going to scale it down a little bit, so maybe like 40. Put it up there. And the stat level, it's called stat level, but this is actually the duration. The duration is going to be just beneath that. So I'll make sure to just anchor everything in the center like this. Put it down, maybe decrease the width a little bit. So I'll be decreasing the width, just put that right about here. And I'll also put it on best fit. Okay, so that's the duration, that's our level up button. Now, our level up button has the wrong name. This is the cost button or something, the use button. Anyway, the names, they don't really matter. What really matters in the end is what goes inside of that button, and we'd like to do the exact same thing we did for research actually, where inside of it we got a image for the currency we need to pay, and also next to it a text, which is going to be the text, well, you know, the amount of currency we have to pay. So I'll be doing the exact same thing. Since we only have one, it's not going to be as complicated as the research where you could have two different currencies at the same time. This one only has one. So I'm going to take the existing text we've got, call this button message, and it's going to stay there. Now on top of that, I will right click on my use button, add a new canvas. Don't have to put panel, just put a canvas. And this is going to be the cost. So basically this is some kind of container. Now right click on it again, we are going to put an image in there. The size doesn't really matter. I'll right click again and put a text. And now we can go back on our cost, actually add a horizontal layout group. So it looks something like this now. We can remove the child force expand both in width and height. Put the child alignment on center. And also actually define an image. Right now we don't have any image. Let's put one, so the knob, why not? This is the kind of result we get. If we disable the button message for a moment, this is what we get. We can change the text for, say, X50. Now let's re-enable the button message, and that's pretty much all we need to do. Okay, of course all the scaling stuff can be adjusted depending on what your needs are, but I will be leaving mine like this for now. And I'll just tackle this whole looking stuff, this whole UI look, whenever I actually put some image in there. Because it would be stupid to do this whole thing now, and then once we put some art, it actually looks a little bit different. Right, so we've got our new ability container. Let's go ahead and hit apply. And I think that's it, actually. That's all we need for the UI part. Now, it is the moment where we create our famous ability container script. So add a new component, ability container. I'm also going to put it somewhere in my script folder so I can actually have a look at it from the good perspective. And here we go, we're writing down a whole new class, and we'll do the whole thing this time. I'm not going to split this in like 4 episodes or something, so since we already done that before, this kind of script, we can actually do it super fast. But before we get started, there's one thing I forgot in the base ability. So if you wish, just open up the base ability for a moment, and we're going to create 2 more getters. At the very end here, we have 2 public bool to check is the ability active or is the ability ready. We're also going to create 2 new functions, like those are 1-line functions. So let's check for, oh, you know what, we could actually create properties. Yeah, let's do that. Let's create properties. It's going to be a little bit cleaner, but we're gonna have some messy code. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so public float cooldown left. We're gonna open up the curly braces, type in get, and we'll do return. And then we're gonna be calculating how much seconds is there left before we can reuse our ability. So I'll do a matf.absolute, takes in parameter our number, so our number is going to be the tower.instance total play time minus last cast plus cooldown. And this is what's going to fit in our return statement. And that's all we need. Now let's copy this whole line over, paste it, and this is going to be the duration left, and instead of saying cooldown, we'll say duration here. Alright, so we got these 2 properties now that we can call from any ability as long as they inherit from base ability. We will now be able to code our ability container without any problems. Right, so should we actually, yeah, let's actually create an ability really quickly. Again, sorry, I'm doing other stuff. So under the ability folder, I'm going to right click, create a new C# script. Let's call this boost morale. Go on the preloader scene and add this new script right on top of the tower. This way we actually have our first ability here. Now we don't need to even open this script. I just want to have something. Actually, we do need, yeah, to open up this script and just make sure it inherits from base ability. That's all we need to do. We're not going to do anything else in there today because we're doing the container. So just make sure your class exists and it inherits from base ability. Cool. Now that this is done, we can finally get started with this. So we're going to be handling the UI a little bit. So let's do unity engine.ui. And I can't type. Sorry about that. What else do we need to do now? We need to declare a private const float refresh rate. which is pretty much what we had for the research when they were active. Now, every single one of my container thus far, they have something in common. They always have the enum up there. So I'll make a public ability that I'll call ability. And this just points towards which ability we're targeting, which ability this container is supposed to take care of. Below this, I'll create a private field. This one is private that I'll call base ability. It is of type base ability, of course, and that is a reference to one of these. So one of these abilities inside of the list base ability. Cool. Let's proceed. Type in private button. Button, those are just simple fields we're going to be keeping in memory so we don't, take too much memory whenever we call the update container. So private button, private image, currency image, private text, array, text, and finally private float, last refresh. Alright, so we have all of these. We are now ready to start coding the start, private void start. In here, we will go get a reference to the base ability. Now, like I said earlier, this is pointing towards something inside of this list, so we gotta be accessing it first. Let's do base ability is equal to ability manager instance, and then we find the list, which was abilities. But now, how exactly do we find the right one, and how do we know in which order they are? The answer is we don't. We don't even need to know in which order they are. The way we're gonna find the good one is by using this over here, this public ability that we set manually from the inspector. So we do a dot find, use the predicate, let's call this a, and a is, if a dot ability is equal to ability, that means we found one that match, and it returns it inside of our base ability. Nice. Next one is to assign the text array, so text is equal to get components in children of type text. Button is equal to get component in children, type of button. There's only one here, so no array. Currency image is equal to get button get component image. So we're getting the component button, and then we're just well, we know that inside of that button, the first image there is inside of that button is actually the image of our currency. Yeah, cool. Now while we are at it, we are also going to start implementing the other functions. So we need a private void update container, and also a private void cast, or let's call this on cast, because we're not really casting yet. Back in our start, we're gonna say button dot on click add listener. We're adding the listener on cast, and once we're done with all of this, we can go ahead and update the container. So update container. Right, so we got our reference. We're actually pointing towards a real base ability class, and that's actually working quite good. Now we're going to do the same exact thing we do whenever we do one of those. We are going to go in the game, find our, we're going to find our object, so our ability container, which is down here, and start looking at the text components. So we do a get components in children, so it fetch them in order. The first object does not have text, the second one does not have either. And here's our first one. So that is the boost morale. That is the name of our ability. So that's the title, I guess. Let's go here, type in index 0 is equal to title. We might not need to modify it, doesn't really matter, but it's there now. Text at the index 1 is a description. So description. Let's proceed. Button doesn't have any. Cost doesn't have any. Image either. Text, so that is the cost, actually, if I am correct. That is the X50, so that's the cost. Cost amount. What is the third index? The third index would be button message. So that's what we would write. We would write in that place like use or in progress or on cooldown. Now let's actually keep going. Do we have anything else? We do have the duration, which is down here. So the fifth one at the fourth index is duration. And that's pretty much all we need. So having this done, we can start coding our update container function. Let's start by asking, is our ability ready right now? Can we actually use the button? Let's do bool ready is equal to base ability ready. This way we actually know, okay, right now I could actually use this. And right below this we'll do button interactable is equal to ready. Okay, so if it is ready, if we are ready to actually use this, then we are going to turn off the button message where it says use or where it says in progress or in cooldown. We don't need to see this, we only need to see the cost when we are ready to cast. So we're going to do button transform get child. We're getting the first child, that game object set active true. Now if you guys don't remember, the first child of the button, if we go have a look, the first child of the button, so this is the button, this is the first child. This is the cost, so this is basically what says, well, that's the image and also the amount. So this one we turned it to true, and the one just below it we turn it to false. So get child at the index 1, we turn it to false. So that's the button message and that is the cost. That is only if you are ready. If you're not ready, let's do an else statement right away. So if not ready, we are going to swap these over. So this is now false and this is now true. This way we already tackle the toggle on and off of those two things and we are good to go. Right, let's actually modify the text now. So do we need to modify the title? No. Do we need to modify the description? We don't. We need to modify the cost amount, that is for sure. So text at index 2 is equal to, let's do the small x, plus base ability dot cost dot toString. Now text at the index button message, we don't need the button message, we actually turn it off right here, so we don't even need this one, but the duration is something we need to do. So for, oh sorry, it's a dot text. So for dot text is equal to stats helper instance, we get the time string, and let's do base ability dot cooldown. We do not want to be showing the seconds, I don't think so, so let's just say false, and that is going to be it for the duration. Let's also modify the color of duration, so text for dot color is equal to color dot black. I will copy all of these over to here, and this is where it gets a little bit troublesome. Actually, you know what, let's remove them. So say our button is ready, that means the ability can be used right now. So that's fine, everything works in here. Now if we go in the else statement, there is two possible state. You can actually be during the buff right now, it can be active right now as we speak, and I'd like to show the user that the buff is still active. So say if you do a boost morale, that lasts 30 seconds, and I'd like to actually display the amount of time left during that boost. And whenever that boost is finished and we are on cooldown, I want to show how long there is left until we can reuse it again. So there is two states here and we're gonna have to split them. Let's do an if statement. So if base ability active, that means we are currently during the buff, or during the ability if you wish. And just below this we'll do a else. Okay, so if it is active, let's actually paste what we had in our clipboard. If it is active, we are going to change the button message. So the button message is going to be something like, really obvious, active. Like this. Now we need to change the text of the duration, and that's pretty much where all the logic goes. So whenever this is active, we are going to turn the text red, so it is bright red, it flashes, and you know, that kind of stuff. And we're going to say base ability dot cooldown, I mean duration left. The nice little property we had, and since this is a property, we don't need to put the parentheses. Right. Let's copy this over to our else statement, and instead of saying active, we'll say on cooldown dot dot dot. Why not? And the color is going to be something like blue. So we're changing the color once more, and the string we need to get is actually cooldown left, and we could actually be displaying the seconds for both of them. Why not? So let's display the seconds, and this is pretty much it, I believe. This is all we need. Okay, so in order to test this, we need to actually start coding our onCast function. So whenever we press on the button, we need two things to happen. We need to say base ability dot cast. So we're calling the actual, the actual action of that base ability. And we also need to update the container. And that's it. We can close this off, we can close this off. Oh, and finally, one last thing, we need to do the update as well. So fairly easy update. Private void update. And with a simple if statement, so if the tower.instance.total playtime is smaller than last refresh, minus last refresh is bigger than refresh rate, that means it has been 1 second. Let's go ahead and do the update container once more. And just to be sure, have we done the last refresh is equal? No, we have not. So sorry again about this. I keep forgetting these little things. Anyway, let's take the last refresh, put it somewhere at the very end or at the very beginning, doesn't really matter, of our update container. So last refresh is equal to the tower.instance total playtime, and we are good to go. Alright. So let's actually go in our game, and hopefully everything will work. Where is our ability container? Here it is. So that's our ability container. It has this ability container thing here. Boost morale, that's the only one, so of course this is going to work. We go over to our tower script, and here's our thing. So we've got a cost of 0. Let's say we have a cost of 50, just to test this out. We have a cost of 50. It is pretty much saying 50 here. If I click on it, nothing happens because I don't happen to have 50 gold for some reason. That's fine. 50 gold. Okay, so here I am. Click on this. I'll lose my gold, and this is now active. And it's active for 30 seconds. As you can tell, it's being updated down here. Now I'm just going to wait it because it's not that long. And as you can tell in the debug.log, action is not implemented in the tower boost morale. So it tells us exactly where we have not implemented our action. And now if we wait a little bit more, this is the cooldown state. It goes blue. We can't click on it because it's still in cooldown. Now just for the sake of testing, I'll actually put the cooldown on, say, 5-second duration on 3. And we are going to start over again. So we're buying this with gold, and as you can tell, 50 gold went down, 30-second active, 2 more second on cooldown, and that's it. If we modify this, we put magic brick in here, not actually going to work because I need to pay with magic brick and I have 0 of those. So back to gold, active, cooldown, and finally it's back up. Alright, and as you guys could tell, we also call this, if we double click on this, this is going to show you the base ability protected virtual void action. And whenever we are ready to actually implement something in this, in the boost morale, we're going to be opening up our empty class. We're going to say public override, actually it's protected, so let's do protected override action, and let's just say debug.log super morale stuff, and that will pretty much override our action, so we won't get the exact same message we had earlier. We are going to get the new one, super morale stuff. Alright guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something. If you did, please leave me a like, really appreciate that as always. If you have any question or comment, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll make sure to answer them as soon as possible. and I can't speak, sorry. Other than that, please subscribe for more tutorials like these, and I will see you in the next episode.